Why is it so hard to stop working so much? You've worked long hours and late nights to build your business, but now you've actually done the work of putting systems and team in place, but you can't seem to step back. You can't seem to stop working so much so that you can enjoy other things in life. There's a few reasons why that's happening. I want to talk about it today and how you can combat it. I recently had a conversation with one of the business owners inside of my Retain group consulting program. This conversation brought to light a little nugget of wisdom that I didn't quite know was living in me. I'm sure you felt this way before, where somebody asks you a question and then something comes out of your mouth and you're like, wow, that was really brilliant. And it's nothing you've ever thought about or said before, but you realize that your life experience has led you to have this unknown wisdom in you that just comes out at the right moment. Well, that negative wisdom provided a lot of value for this business owner and a lot of emotional relief. And I think some of you might benefit from it as well. So this business owner is in a bit of a transition season. They've worked really, really hard to get their membership off the ground pretty much by themselves. They saw some initial success, but then they applied some strategies and saw booming success. We're talking about tripling the membership essentially overnight. They had to make some quick decisions to hire some team members. They, in fact, hired one of the community managers that had been trained through my Cultivate community training program, which led to even more success. Now, the beautiful thing is that because that community manager was so well trained through the program and is also being supported through Retain group consulting program, they're taking a lot off of the business owner's plate. So much so that the business owner has more free time than they have had in a long time, but they're not getting to enjoy it. And I find this to be true with many business owners. In fact, I found it to be true for myself. I work so hard to build streamlined systems into my business that make me need to work less to get the same results, so that I can have more free time to do the things that I love. But then there's something in me. It's like this, I don't know if it's a feeling of guilt or just a compulsive feeling to need to fill that time with work. And she's struggling with the same thing. She wants to be able to step back. She wants to be able to work less, but she has built this habit of working so hard and always checking her phone and always checking on the community and always checking her emails that she's not quite sure how to step back. And if she does, she feels almost guilty or feels like a lack of peace. So even though you're not working, your soul isn't at rest because you're thinking about your business and what you should or could be doing. What I recognized with this individual is something that I think we all suffer from, which is that our business is what brings us excitement. Our business is what gives us a feeling of accomplishment. Our business is what gives us an identity. It's what we believe represents our value. Whether we believe that subconsciously or we're well aware that's something we struggle with, it becomes a real challenge when our business no longer needs us as much to produce the same or even better results. So we have come to rely on our business for things like adrenaline rushes and excitement, for things like that feeling of achievement and accomplishment and self-actualization. Sometimes our business and the community that we run is where we're getting our sense of belonging. And so although we don't need to be present in that community, we do need to be present because that's where our people are. And we don't have community outside of our business. When I look back on my decade plus entrepreneurial journey and I look at the times that I have worked my tail off and then gotten to the point where I can step back, and I've really struggled to step back. And oftentimes I actually end up starting another business to fill the space that the first business no longer requires of me anymore. So I get it. I get this roller coaster feeling of, oh, I need to build systems. I'm working too much. I want to work less. I need to hire so that I can delegate and have more time for my family. But then when that actually happens and we reach success and our business doesn't need us as much, we have trouble stepping back. And this isn't that feeling of not trusting your employee. It's not that. It's not the false sense of having systems that actually don't give you more free time, but then now you're just spending your time managing systems. That's a different problem. We're talking about fully functioning systems that don't require you to babysit them. We're talking about capable employees that are proactive, that you can trust to meet their goals in the business. And then we're still not able to step back. It's a cycle that is really hard to get out of. And it's because that business is feeding our feel-good hormones. You have dopamine and serotonin, and all these hormones in your body, oxytocin, that release when you are in community, when you accomplish things. Even adrenaline is actually an addictive hormone, right? You hear people talk about adrenaline junkies. Well, you don't have to jump off of a cliff to be flooded with adrenaline. You can just show up on a Facebook Live. You can do a webinar. You can try a new launch strategy. You can release a new training. You can say something really powerful in the community that you're not quite sure how it's going to hit. You can take a big risk in hiring a new employee. Our businesses as entrepreneurs, our businesses are a source of adrenaline as well. So if our businesses are providing us this feeling of oxytocin that we get from that feeling of belonging, if it's providing us that risk-taking adrenaline rush, if it's providing us that feel-good serotonin, I've accomplished something today, then when those things go away, we naturally feel depressed. We naturally crave to have that back. Not because we want to work more hours, not because we don't love our family and want to spend less time with them, not because we're not interested in whatever our other activity is going on, but because our body is craving those hormones that it's so used to receiving. So although your business is the source of these wonderful hormones that make you feel so good, it can also be sucking the absolute life out of you at the same time. And so it becomes this like kind of toxic relationship in a way. And then when we get the opportunity to step back, it's just like a breakup with a toxic person. You're in this terrible relationship where they love you one moment and they're making you feel all good one moment. They're cheating on you the next moment or causing all these issues and drama in your life the next moment. And then you finally break up with them because you're like, I can't handle this chaos anymore. And you take a step back and then you find yourself back in their arms again because your body is still craving all of those good things. It's craving the adrenaline. So just working less actually isn't going to solve the problem. We have to replace that time with something that is going to give us that feel-good feeling, with something that's going to give us that adrenaline rush. So you have to know for yourself, is it, adrenaline, serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin? What of those hormones, what is it about my business that I miss and that I feel like I need to show up more for? So a good way to figure this out is, now that you have new roles and responsibilities in your business because of hires, systems, etc., what is the thing that when you sneak in extra time or when you do something that isn't on your roles and responsibilities list, but actually should be something that somebody else is doing, what are those things? And how do you feel when you do them? Do you feel nervous or excited? Do you feel really connected because you've had a deep connection with a team member or with community members, right? Because each of those things is going to release different hormones. So for example, if you have a really fantastic community manager who has said, hey, you don't have to worry about the community. I'm actually going to spoon feed you the posts that I want you to engage in, or if I need you to go live or do something, I'm going to tell you what to do. But otherwise, like, turn your notifications off. You don't need to be looking. Right? But you still keep going back. You haven't turned those notifications off. You still feel compelled to check on your community all of the time. Then it could be one of two things. It could be that ding that, oh, my group is really active. I feel really good about myself. We've done something right. Like if you just go in there to be like, oh, how many engagements? How many comments? I posted this thing yesterday. Like how many people like it? Then that is more of that like dopamine hit, that hit of just like accomplishment, right? You can get that in other ways. You can get that in taking up a new activity like, I don't know, pickleball. I don't know what activity it is, but taking up new activities can give you that sense of achievement and accomplishment. Or leaning into hobbies of your past that you've neglected because you were busy building your business. But let's say you keep going back into your community, not to look at the number of comments or the number of likes or anything like that, or the group growth, but you're going back into your community because you want to engage, you want to respond, you want to answer people's questions, and you want to coach. That's oxytocin. That is that feeling of connection that you desire. So my encouragement for you would be to work really hard to find ideally an in-person community where you feel really connected. So this could be a church group, you could start a book club, it could be a neighborhood bunko group, it could be just friends that you honestly have neglected, because we all know when we are launching new businesses and building new businesses, we don't have time for as many friendships as we would want, or as much time for friends, period. So maybe it's just inviting people over for dinner or out for coffee. But leverage those in-person connections to get the oxytocin, or find your own community online of other business owners where you can build those connections that's not within your own business of people that you're serving. Maybe in leaving your business, you're not leveraging your creative side as much. So you find yourself rewriting copy that doesn't need to be rewritten, or looking at like new video outlines and restructuring those, or giving critiques on graphics that are really good enough. That's your creative side. And oftentimes, as you elevate yourself to more of a CEO role or a leader role in your business, your hands are not as involved in the creative aspects of the business. You're really looking more strategically, team management, operations. And so that creative side of your brain wants to get used naturally. But what we don't want to be doing is doubling work, overstepping boundaries that we've set in the first place, because we're trying to use that creative need inside of us. That creativity needs to be unlocked. So then maybe you get involved in art, or maybe you start journaling and writing. Maybe you write a book, right? That's huge, not just for your business, but for your life. So maybe it's the creative side of you that feels like it's being neglected. It's really important to pay attention to when we have the opportunity to step back in our business, to have more free time, to have more space to think, create, strategize, play, build relationships outside of our business. But yet we find ourselves continually sucked back into the vortex of work, to really ask ourselves, why? What are we going back for? What is that feeling that we're trying to get? What is that thing in us that needs to get used? Then once we figure that out, we need to really intentionally think about how we're going to replace the work time and the work activities with non-work activities, hobbies, projects, people that can scratch that itch, that can fulfill that need. Find something non-work that allows you to be creative, that allows you to risk, to try something new, to get excited about something. Like, there's a lot of things that are new and novel inside of our businesses as entrepreneurs, and the brain actually really craves new and novel. I've talked about this actually in the context of community, how if we're really boring, it doesn't matter how good we are, people are going to leave, because the brain craves something new and novel, and that's what they remember, and that's what creates a unique experience from the community perspective. So you need the same thing for yourself. Try something new. Try a new hobby. Try to build a new relationship. Go to a new town. Maybe it's only an hour away. But I want you to really be intentional about replacing that work time with activities that continue to give you those good feelings of oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, even adrenaline, to get you excited, to make sure that you're still pursuing things that ignite your passion, so that you don't either get sucked back into the vortex of work where it's not really where you want to be. So you're probably going to feel bad about that and feel that tension, or so that you don't just go into a depression and, not be motivated in other areas of life, or really have an identity struggle where you feel like you are no longer valuable. You have no identity anymore because you're not as needed in your business. None of those things being true. Many of you have been sprinting so hard, and it has really paid off for you to sprint in your business. But you've done the work now to lay the strong foundations of systems, to make sure that you have good team members in place to support you, but you're still sprinting. It is time to tell your brain and your body that it is okay to slow down to marathon pace, and that there are exciting and new and comforting and fun things that you can do outside of your business now that you're at that marathon pace instead of at the sprint pace. All right, friends, I know this isn't like my typical episode, but I felt like this is something I know I needed to hear years ago as an entrepreneur, probably need to hear on a consistent basis. I know it was extremely beneficial for this business owner to hear this in the season of transition. And I know because so many of you are at that point of having experienced success and working towards building systems and team, that you're probably feeling this tension as well. So I hope that it was helpful, and I hope it allows you to cultivate a life that you love in and out of your business.